then things sort of slowed down, and I looked forward, and it was still just void, just void everywhere. And then I believed I was flying fast, like forward as fast as possible. And then it was again, I realized that like I'm not moving or not moving. It's just, I'm just somewhere. And I started to try to think about how I got there. And then I remembered what was going on. And from my perspective, I looked over and I didn't see like myself in bed or anything like that. I saw sort of like a timeline. I don't know how to describe it other than like like almost like a waveform, like an audio, something like that. But I could interpret it as my life. And I'm perceiving this, and I either thought or had a voice said the sentence, "It's a shame he got so distracted by alcohol."
Hello, my dear friends. I'm Donald Lee, and this is Expressing and Revealing Your Truth with Donald Lee. It's a podcast in which I help you understand the truth about who you really are and how you can express and reveal that truth in the world. To do that, I interview people who have had transformational spiritual experiences, the type of experiences that many of us wish we had, but never do. Yet, by learning from my guests' experiences and the wisdom they've gained from those experiences, all of us can glimpse a bigger vision of who we really are and how we can live our lives more fully, more peacefully, more lovingly. Be sure to download my free mini ebook containing 5 of the 50 parables from my popular book, The Band Director's Lessons About Life. These little parables are short, easy to read, inspiring, and also help you to understand more about who you really are. There is a link in the show notes below to get your free ebook. In this episode, I interview Brock Miller. Brock started a successful career as a musician, but like so many musicians, he got involved with alcohol and drugs. Alcohol became part of his stage persona, his identity, and this ended up destroying him to the point where he was in a hospice and about to die from cirrhosis of the liver. Then he had a series of what we could call near-death experiences. He describes it as going into a void and then seeing his life in the form of a sinusoidal wave like we might see on an oscilloscope. From this perspective, he was able to forgive himself and to see that alcohol was really not part of who he was. And he could set it aside. Instead of dying, as expected, Brock sat up in his hospice bed and began to recover, to begin a journey of coming back to life. It has been a long journey from the edge of death, a journey that's still ongoing. Yet Brock's story is one that can inspire all of us. So often, as we make poor choices in life and our life begins to spiral downward, we have to hit rock bottom before we can come to our senses and begin to climb out of the pit we have created for ourselves. This is what Brock has done, and it can be a source of hope and inspiration for all of us. I'm sure you'll enjoy this wonderful conversation with Brock Miller. Oh, my dear friends, welcome once again. We're here today with Brock Miller. Now, his full name is Brockford Lee Miller. Interesting that his middle name is the same as my last name, but life is interesting, isn't it? And Brock, welcome. Welcome to my podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Donald. Thank you for having me today.
Brock, as you heard in the introduction, has a fascinating story, one that's actually not all that uncommon in a lot of ways, but the dying part of it is uncommon. So, Brock, begin where you think it's important to begin, and let's hear your story of kind of descent and then ascension again and your transformational spiritual experience.
Definitely. I am a musician. I've been performing since I was a teenager. In my 20s, I sort of um, went down the traditional, sort of rock star band, regional rock star. Let's not get carried away here. Sort of, the lifestyle of just playing a lot of shows, a lot of very, very heavy drinking. And I was always kind of an outsider before then. And I really fit in for the first time in my life. And so I always kind of, I think I associated, partying or alcohol and drugs with fitting in, with making new friends and being, one of the group. So as music progressed, so did unfortunately my alcohol use. And over the course of the next few years, I was very functional still, but I would miss opportunities. I would miss meetings, and I kind of shot myself in the foot. I was in Nashville at the time. Ended up leaving Nashville, coming back to Florida, and starting a new life, and also playing music as well. But the drinking just increased and increased, and after several years, I went through a very bad breakup, and it went very bad. I had gained quite a lot of weight. I've always was a big person before, and I was extremely depressed. And they told me that I had cirrhosis of the liver, and I had been drinking, every waking moment for about 5 to 7 years at that point. Um,
So
and
Brock,
Mhm.
so what age were you at this point? You're in
Oh,
Florida,
okay.
and
Yes. Well, I started when the drinking really started. I was about 26 in Nashville, Tennessee, and then I came back to Florida a few years later. And when it really got bad, uh, this was uh, this was almost a full 10 years after. In that meantime, there had been a lot. I moved back to Nashville for a while. A lot happened in there. But the progression continued until I was about 37 is when they told me that I had cirrhosis, and I knew that I was very sick. I wasn't. I mean, I felt awful. I wasn't in a good place, and I was very depressed. And I didn't want to be alive anymore. I didn't want this body. I didn't want to be here. And when they told me I had cirrhosis, I upped the amount of alcohol that I was taking in, and I guess it was, sort of a soft way of trying to end my life, and I saw it as an opportunity. And about 2 years of continuing with cirrhosis to abuse alcohol, um, I my body started shutting down, and I ended up on hospice. And I wasn't extremely shocked, but they gave me about 3 to 4 days to still be here, and I was shocked at that. I remember knowing that that was going on, but it is very, very hazy during that week period, that first week of hospice.
so
I
tell
Yes.
me something. When you were in hospice, were you still drinking alcohol, or did they cut you off alcohol?
They actually continued small amounts of alcohol because they believed that I wouldn't be there very long, and they wanted to stave off the withdrawal symptoms to sort of exacerbate the health situation. So I was kept on a small amount of alcohol for quite a while during hospice. So it was practically nothing, but enough to just basically keep my body from going into those withdrawal stages. And, I had been trying to quit alcohol before the cirrhosis thing, before the severe depression. And I had feigned trying to quit, during the entire process. And in that, I'm actually very grateful that I did attend the meetings and read the books and really learn a lot about it. Not knowing then, but in
Mm.
preparation for when the time would be where that would be put down.
So you're talking about the Alcoholics Anonymous? Is that what you're referring
Yes.
to? Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly Alcoholics Anonymous, a few other groups. Yeah, definitely. I just was very involved in that even during my drinking. I kind of saw it as a way to keep people off my back and allow me to keep drinking without being bothered. um so
It's amazing
yeah.
as when we have an addiction, we get in a downward spiral, right? It's like a whirlpool, and one thing adds on to another. And, we take all kinds of steps to try to hide our addiction. Oh, no, I'm not, deny it. Oh, no, I'm not
Mhm.
an alcoholic, or I'm trying to quit. I'm going to AA, I'm taking steps. I'm getting better. Everything's getting better, right? It's all lies. We lie to ourselves and we lie to everybody else. And then
Mhm.
you're right. You kind of mentioned it earlier, right? So because sometimes in the morning you're hungover or not drunk enough to function yet, then you miss appointments. You're not as effective in your life, in the work that you're doing. And then so you
Mhm.
don't get some of the gigs you might have gotten if you were sober and working at your best, and everything goes down and it goes down, and it's just
Mhm.
so often we have to hit rock bottom before we can turn things around and start to climb back up again. It's so sad. It's in fact it's happening on a societal level too. In our whole society, it's going down the drain, and we're going to have to hit rock bottom, I think. And the
Mhm.
sad part is that so many people don't bounce back, right? It's like a dead cat
Yeah.
bounce, right? And so
Yes.
they hit
Yes,
rock
definitely.
bottom and die. And
Mhm.
you actually did die, but then that was a transformational event. Okay, so
Mhm.
I've interrupted you enough. Let's pick up your story.
No, that's all right. Where did we leave off just now?
Well, you're in hospice. They're giving
That's
you
right.
a little bit of alcohol in your last few days of life. A
Mhm.
cirrhosis of the liver, all your internal organs are essentially shutting down, been destroyed by alcohol, and then all the other things that go with it, right? Getting overweight, and so then
That's right.
that feeds into it, and then
Yes.
feeds into the depression. So it's our physical body, right? Our psychological state. It's mind, body, and spirit, right? Our
Yeah.
body gets degraded, our psychological condition declines. So not only are we physically sick, we're mentally ill, really, at the same time. And we are just completely out of connection with our spirit, with our soul. So just all of these things happen, and that's part of the downward spiral, right? So you're
That's 100% true. Yes. Yeah. During that time period, I've always written songs, various genres throughout my life. I've always written songs, recorded them for myself, even if I wasn't playing music publicly, or even if they never saw the light of day. It's always been something I did. And during this time period of probably last 7 years of the drinking, that's the only time period of my known life where I do not have a single song. And I think that kind of paints the picture pretty clearly, at least for me, is that there was no beauty, there was no joy. I had no connection to anything greater than this very small, limited uh, area that I could even move around because I'm not feeling well enough, and I couldn't believe in anything then. Um, I was raised in church, and I kind of didn't really see it as I didn't really fit into it, and I was kind of agnostic-ish throughout my life, and had a few attempts at a spirituality that was purely surface. It was um 'Cause deep down, I truly didn't believe in, anything, and it's so easy to see now. I was in an addiction that to me, sometimes I only can describe as possession. I mean, just being not wanting to be doing what you're doing and seeing yourself going through these motions every day and knowing that you're in your own prison, that you continually lock yourself in every morning when you wake up. And so
It
uh
it it
so
it
yeah.
is very much a type of spiritual possession, I
Hmm.
in some way at least, and the fact that for those 7 years, you didn't write any songs, that's
Yeah.
also a sign that you're completely disconnected from your spirit and from the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of God or from the Creator, whatever you wanna call it.
Yeah.
Because, as I've written in some of my books, it's one of probably the most important and fundamental characteristic of God or the divine, whatever you want to call it, the universe, is creativity. And our
Yes.
creativity as humans very much comes from spirit. And when we are disconnected from our own spirit, we lose that access to creativity.
Yeah.
I've written, and many people have noticed it. A lot of musicians too. In fact, I'll just inject a neat little story here.
Hmm.
But a lot of us as musicians, when we write music, and I've written a little bit of music, not nearly as much as you, but you know what? I've always got the sense that when something good came through, I thought, man, where did that come from? That didn't come from me. That came from somewhere else. That
Yeah.
came through me, but not from me. And many
Hmm.
great and many musicians, who write and are creative and stuff, and other people who are creative, find that sort of thing. There's this story that's told about Paul McCartney, yeah, and he wrote the theme song for the James Bond movie Live and Let Die, and they paid him $100,000 to write the theme song. And he said the whole song came to him in about 10 minutes. Many people remember that, live and let
Hmm.
die,
Right.
ba-da-dum,
Right.
ba-da-dum, ba-da. Yeah. He
Yeah.
said the
It's a
whole
great
song
one.
came to him in about 10 minutes and he wrote it all down. He had some little fixing up and changes to do later. But, basically he said it just came to him. He wrote it down in about 10 minutes. He said he felt a little bad about, taking the money, but he did take $100,000.
Well, yes, obviously, he's Paul McCartney, he deserves it. Um, no,
Okay,
that's so
enough stories.
true.
Let's get back again to your story. So you're in hospice. You're a few days away from death.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so I'm in hospice and, I'm kind of out of it, and, my family some family from out of town flew in and, kind of said our goodbyes, and, that was kind of the thing. And I even did a sort of deathbed conversion with my parents, my father being a pastor, and even in that moment, not believing in anything, I just figured I could do that for them, and if there was any truth to it, that I would end up wherever they end up, um, and
An
I didn't
insurance
think about it.
policy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, insurance, spiritual insurance. The, I didn't think about it at the time, but just allowing myself to do that, I feel like opened me up to the experience that happened next. Because I reached a point of I didn't intellectually care whether I could prove that what people believe is not accurate to history or whatever it is. It wasn't about that. It was just about just let it go, and yes, I accept this thing. Um, and so I think it was the third day of everything. I was kind of in and out of stuff. I didn't really talk about this experience for a while because I didn't know for sure how to define this experience, um, but I was kind of in and out of it, and I found myself just, well, continually feeling like I was about to pass out. I figured that if I fell asleep, that was going to be it. And I found myself in sort of a black void. I believed I was dreaming or having a vision, and that I was in space. And at first, I thought I was falling. incredibly fast. It felt like when this experience started, it felt like I had just narrowly averted a traffic accident. Like, there was a car coming and I swerved and everybody's fine, but there's that feeling right after, that of like, that was the feeling I had, and I'm sitting there thinking I'm falling, and I'm not even thinking about where I could possibly be. Then things sort of slowed down, and I looked forward, and it was still just void, just void everywhere. And then I believed I was flying fast, like forward as fast as possible. And then it was again, I realized that like I'm not moving or not moving. It's just I'm just somewhere. And I started to try to think about how I got there, and then I remembered what was going on. And from my perspective, I looked over and I didn't see like myself in bed or anything like that. I saw sort of like a timeline. I don't know how to describe it other than like like almost like a waveform, like an audio, something like that. But I could interpret it as my life. And I'm perceiving this, and I either thought or had a voice said the sentence, "It's a shame he got so distracted by alcohol." Um, and in that moment, that statement, which doesn't sound that explosive, that statement of distracted by alcohol versus calling it a moral flaw or making it just the biggest deal ever that it was in life allowed me to not see myself as that being who I am. That's a distraction that I got caught up in that brought me to this place. And that would come into play later in important ways. But I was very aware that I could quit alcohol because I understood it. I forgave myself in that moment. Just that bit of changing it from that he's an alcoholic, he's a drunk, to that he got so distracted by alcohol. Just that was enough self forgiveness to make me go, I can do this. I can do this. If I get my life continues, I can be the person that I want to be. I can rid myself of this possession, this thing that's been following me and keeping me in place. And as I'm having this thought, I'm also thinking about, family and holidays, and just all of a sudden these bright, images are coming my head of just the most wonderful times. If this is, my reality, and I all of a sudden felt a lot of pain, just a ton of. Oh, I should mention that as these images are coming up, as I'm thinking about my life, it begins to feel more and more euphoric. I wouldn't know how to describe it as anything except for just bliss, painlessness, just bliss. And actually, before I felt myself in pain again, I was trying to hold this thought in my head, and the thought wouldn't hold there anymore. And then I started to try to think, what was I thinking about, or who, or what was that? And then those words just lost all meaning. What was that? It's not even, nothing was relevant to me as a person. And I kind of look at that as sort of tiptoeing into rejoining source, like going back to source energy or something, just this moment of just unidentity. Um,
So you kind of
and
you kind of had shed your identification with the physical body at all. Is that what you're saying?
yes, and to the point to where there was no such thing as or falling or going forward or all these concepts. Just they meant absolutely zero, just null. It was all just completely meaningless, and it was wonderful. It was a huge relief. I think we don't realize how much of existence is almost just like maniacally holding on to stuff in our heads and in our And to not have that, I think is a great joy. But as I felt that, that is the moment I felt just extreme pain. Um, there was the pain that I had grown accustomed to living with, and I either coming out of that or shortly after I sat up, and I had been pretty much just out of it the whole time. And when I sat up, I was like, okay, well, that's like move one, like let's just if I'm still around, let's keep trying to move parts of our body and do what we can do. And over the next few days, even I made massive, massive improvements to where by the next week with help, I was walking to the bathroom and and I went out and sat at the table and like talked with my family for a little while. Like it was crazy.
That must have
That
shocked the heck out of everybody, particularly the hospice
uh,
workers who are used to
yeah,
seeing people make this kind of natural progression, declining towards death and then dying. And you make this natural progression towards death, and all of a sudden you sit up and you start to come back to life again.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there were the nurses I remember because I remember a lot of what I remember from the days before that experience was that I could hear people talking about me and about like my chances and it was very, very depressing. And so I knew what had been said and it was kind of fresh in my head. Um, and yes, their tone changed dramatically. Um, when that happened. And then we after that because it was like initially it was like crunch time, everything was intense. And so then we got sort of new hospice team and nurses and stuff like that. After I had wasn't in such critical condition or whatever. Um and they hadn't seen it, so they weren't near as excited, but they were still great. um so but yeah, they were very excited about it. I was excited because I knew it wasn't a question of, well, if I can, climb this mountain, we'll see. It wasn't that. It was I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be able to put this down. I'm going to become an entirely different person, and I have a job here to do. And I don't know what it is yet, but I know these things. Going forward from there, I was still on hospice for a while, technically on hospice care for months after that. And I finally graduated hospice, which I think is a hilarious way of putting it.
It is.
But
It's
that's
really
what
funny. I mean,
definitely.
usually graduation from hospice means that you go into a casket. So yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly. That's what I
really,
assumed.
you probably flunked out of hospice.
Yes, I had a failing grade at hospice. I was never great in school and I was terrible at hospice.
Just wouldn't die.
Yep, yep, wouldn't follow through.
Just a little break from the program to mention a couple of things. Firstly, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm to find more people who would enjoy these interviews. Also, if you're interested in spiritual growth, you might be interested in my series of spiritual books. As a spiritual author and a former band director, I use my little "the band director" trademark in these books because I use music as a metaphor for life and the journey of becoming a musician as a metaphor for our spiritual journey. There are 3 books in the series. The Band Director's Lessons About Life is a book of modern-day parables inspired by events from my teaching career. When you're working with kids, little things naturally come up that we sometimes call teachable moments. Little events when you realize there's a bigger lesson happening right now than the alternate F-sharp fingering on the clarinet that I was trying to teach. I started writing some of these little stories down and turning them into modern-day parables. So, the Band Director's Lessons About Life has 50 little parables. It's a bit like a Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Each parable is about 3 pages long, Each begins with a story that happened in school, and then there's a reflection section that draws a spiritual lesson out of the events of the story. That is, it explains the spiritual metaphor. The band director's lessons about life is easy to read, makes a great gift, and expresses many universal spiritual principles in an easy to understand way. If you want to go deeper in your spiritual growth, I've also published a study guide to accompany the Book of Parables. It turns the band director's lessons about life into a year-long course in spiritual development. You will spend a week on each of the 50 parables. There is a deeper teaching about the meaning of each parable, reflection and discussion questions, especially helpful if you would like to use the study guide in a group setting, and a different meditation for each lesson. The third book in the series is a little book titled The Band Director's Pocket Guide to Spiritual Growth. This little book explains a simple 3-step process to putting your spiritual growth into high gear. You can learn more about all of these 3 books and my other books at my website, www.cominghomespirit.com. Because, after all of us are on a spiritual journey back home to God. So that's cominghomespirit.com. You can also go directly to my Shopify page at cominghomespirit.myshopify.com, where you can purchase my books directly from me. I can deliver ebooks and audiobooks anywhere in the world, but at the moment I can only ship paperback books within the continental United States. So if you live in other countries, you will need to purchase my books through Amazon in your own country. If you're enjoying this podcast, I really think you'll enjoy my Band Director series of books as well. Now, back to the program.
But yeah, as the months went on, I just had this knowing, and I wasn't in a good mood yet. Things were still tough. I was trying to end the physical addiction because I had been kept on trace alcohol or small amounts of alcohol through the entire hospice process. I don't know if I don't know why we didn't wean off during that, but I didn't ask a lot of questions. So I spent the next little bit, getting over the physical addiction because mentally I knew that I was over it. So it was kind of just a long weaning off process. I had one or two sort of, bad dips. But I jumped into a rehab for several months, and that probably saved my life. And definitely, I needed the break from real life to actually, step back and actually do the thing. Just it was seeing the same surroundings, being the same place, having the same stores right next door, having this, just the ease of it, what made it hard to put it down physically. But eventually I did. And um what followed that was just has been, I mean, unbelievable, just glorious and heartbreaking and wonderful and dreadful and all the things, but a new and amazing life that I never, saw possible. And a few months into actual sobriety, once I had finally put it down, I was really thinking about like what all this experience meant, this memory that I have so clearly of this event that, to me was outside of what would allow myself to believe in, even if I believed that there was a higher power. A lot of what I leaned on spiritually at that time was still through recovery and through the Alcoholic Anonymous concept of, or that we must have a higher power, and it can be, whatever you choose, and some people choose the doorknob or whatever. I'm not sure how that exactly motivates you, but a lot of people have trouble with the religious aspect of that, and need to get sober too. So, my initial higher power was the strength that made me sit up and the strength that made me get better and get out of bed, which is just the energy around us all, and me tapping into that. And a few months into it, I was sort of I had such clear direction from just trusting that source and my intuition and just a really clear path ahead of me that I one day was driving on the road and I was like, this is like this must be like what it's like for people who believe in God. And then I just was like, oh wait a second, like this is God. I believe in you got me. You guys got me. You
That's
tricked
fun.
me into it. Uh, um, but, I just when I changed my definition of what that even meant to encompass the energy that made me sit up, the energy that we all run on, the electricity that's around, then that concept rings so true. And a lot of us know that concept is, what we live by. And it was just an amazing time of I was seeing myself change. There were some issues at first. I was I had some neurological stuff that was underdiagnosed basically, and we kind of went through a whole exploration process with that. A lot of MRIs and stuff, and it was interesting because I was just trying to find out about my weird brain. Um,
Is that as a result of alcohol consumption, or was it just something else?
No. No, it was more that I had always had tendencies that looking back and at this time, like, finally looking back on them, I could see clear patterns of different stuff, and I'd been going to a neurologist, for a while, and he had previously diagnosed me with several neurological disorders, which I kind of rejected the diagnosis of, and so basically it was accepting those, going on, sort of new medicine routes and finding new ways of living with knowing that, and actually knowing those things was extremely helpful because there was a great deal of resources I could read about certain syndromes or diagnoses that other people had dealt with and what to expect. And when I understood how my brain worked, well, I wasn't mad at it anymore. I wasn't like, why do I think this way?
Right.
I
Can
accepted it.
Brock, can you tell us what those are, or do you not want to share that?
Um, no, I can share them. Well, I had been previously diagnosed with uh, PTSD, but in this time period, I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, as well as I had been previously diagnosed ADHD as well. Uh, but that was we confirmed that diagnosis, and then also obsessive compulsive disorder, and those are the main ones. Those are the big 3. My diagnosis is technically spectrum anomalies, which I think is fantastic. Uh, 'Cause whatever they are, I love them. They make my mind work a little bit differently, and I think it's a gift.
Okay. Yeah, in some ways it is, and I
Mm.
think you're quite right. I've heard the same thing from other people that understanding how the brain works, understanding um, ADHD or the autistic spectrum, and what that means, how to take advantage of the benefits. Right? We never think of these things as having any benefits, only drawbacks. Yeah, it allows people to be able to, like we always want to do, play to our strengths, not our
Right.
weaknesses. Right? Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely. You find little workarounds and you realize, kinda what's working in your brain, and I also at this time, I knew that I had cirrhosis. I knew that there were gonna be health concerns, so between, the neurological stuff and the health stuff, I was reading a lot of medical stuff at this time, and I wasn't finding a lot of solutions for the neurological stuff. I felt like I couldn't get quiet in my head. It was always thoughts that I didn't want, this obsessive loop of just unwanted thoughts that I'm pretty sure I was shutting off with alcohol for a very long time. Actually, the first thing that happened was I watched a movie about earthing, about grounding, putting your bare feet in the soil, and about how that can ground you electrically to take any excess and offload it. And it just made sense to me at that time. I started doing it every day, spending time outside, and I noticed changes within a couple weeks of, I was having physical changes. My body was changing drastically, but I just started to become more content. I was able to wrap my head around things a lot easier without all this noise. And so I kind of followed that. And this is, my first foray into anything spiritual in nature or anything sort of holistic healing in nature. Um, and that brought me to a spiritual convention that was in town. And during that, I found first Tibetan bowls and then crystal bowls, which became a humongous part of. I just found a piece that I'd never had before. The crystal bowls I felt from across the room, and
Really?
just with my senses just walked and dodged between the booths until I got there. And it was all of a sudden, it was like I had access to so much more that my brain could do. It was like it just focused into a singular path that I was able to actually dictate and visualize. I don't visualize in common sense. I don't have a great mental picture, but I could plan things and think of things conceptually in a new way because this quieted my brain it was just amazing. So in addition to having this, new relationship with spirit, I'm finding these other treatments for my new neurological disorders in holistic things and things that are, considered in the, department of spirituality, but it's also just very basic vibrational stuff and things that totally make sense. Yeah, it was a very interesting time and so exciting. I just kept learning new things, and during this time I just my body changed drastically. I uh, lost tons of weight. I was always a very big person, and I am unidentifiable to people who knew me even a year and a half ago probably. So it's been not just an inward change, but I'm very happy that, I have a new outward appearance to go with the new human being, So it's the start of so much. And I felt like such a child in this time period. Just, there's been extremely hard stuff. Do not get me wrong on that. But there's just like this wonder and this sense of awe that, I know that I had as a child and that I have not seen in a very, very long time.
It's beautiful. There's so much like, several famous things that Jesus said, right? Unless you become
Mhm.
like little children. And part of
Yeah.
that being like little children, I think, is the sense of joy and wonder and innocence and how everything seems fresh and
Yeah.
exciting. And yeah, that's beautiful. And then, of course, the other one is, you must be born again in a certain way,
Mhm.
in a more dramatic way than happens to most people. You died and were born again.
Yeah.
This is incredible. So then
Yes,
you went on
definitely.
and yeah. So tell us about you toured around the country somewhat and started playing guitar and singing again, writing songs again. Tell us about
Yeah.
that work that you've done in recent years.
Well, yeah, that's the other part of, the beginning of sobriety and spirituality and all these new changes was I had a few little projects I did first that were not music, just little things I wanted to work on, some strange stuff. Woodworking became a big thing for a little bit, but I was just getting a creative vein again and really doing it. But when I sat down to write songs, it was effortless in a way that just it never was before. And there may have been instances where it happened like this, but it's that thing of I just feel like it fell out of me. The song was sitting there waiting and it just as what was given the idea and then bloop, it was on the I don't even write things down. It was recorded and I just started doing the vocals. Um So these things just started happening so much that some days I could write 3 songs, and it was just ridiculous. Not all of them were fantastic, but still, the productivity was up there.
Yes.
Um, and the interesting part about it being, about me being a vessel for the song versus, deciding every, detail of what it is. And I found after this time period, songs throughout my earlier career when I was in no place similar to where I'm at now. Spiritually, mentally, I've never been at a place like that. But I found these few songs just sprinkled throughout where I'm touching on exactly what's going on right now. And it's so interesting to me that when I started writing in this mind frame, it fell out of me like it was nothing, and I'd imagine that those songs were, a just like a phenomena that occurred during all my chaos and all my drinking when I wasn't even really paying attention to it, and I was tapped into that without having any clue about it. I have one song that I found from 2007 about like very blatantly about positive affirmations and stuff that I wish I would have known in 2007. I don't remember ever knowing this stuff. So there's just been so much interesting stuff like that to where I really do feel like I was just receiving songs and they were effortless. I found some old songs that worked perfectly with what I was doing and kind of punched them up. Um, I still wasn't really planning on doing music though, and I went on a little road trip and I decided I'm gonna try to get my chops back playing in front of people just because I haven't done it in a long time. So I started playing little open mic nights, just at random towns. I would look it up as I was going through places, just see if there was one around and go to it. And I met a guy in Tennessee who used to be music, but he was also recovery, who he heard my songs, and then I had told some of my story in it as well without getting too deep in it, at that certain event, and he told me that I was gonna sell a lot of these songs. He told me to keep them and sing them with my story, and he helped me get around to a lot of different places to get in front of people and, play as well as speak about recovery, which, you know, during this was during 2024, and I was all over the country, and it really clarified what I believe my mission is going forward, which is to spread this message that I have of that not necessarily a specific way of life, but that massive change is certainly possible for human beings. That no matter your situation, those things you want, those things that seem way beyond your wildest everything, that's ridiculous. Go get them. It's you know what I mean?
Just do it, like the Nike
Yeah,
slogan.
exactly. Just get out there, get your hands dirty, don't miss opportunities. Something will happen. Something always happens when you take action. Uh And the thing is, I don't mean to make it sound that simple. It's a lot of hard work to drastically change your habits, drastically change your life. And I did some therapies that were way outside the box that helped tremendously. And, it, up to your journey, but it just is possible. And I have the either fortunate or unfortunate circumstance of during some of this time, I was a YouTuber. I was a pretty popular YouTuber on YouTube. And, it was not a very healthy time of my life. There was a lot of, I don't know. I had invented a character basically, and I didn't really get to be myself. So a lot of people, thousands of people watched me decline into alcoholism and watched me get sicker and sicker even before I stopped doing that. So, I feel a responsibility to those people to show them specifically these few thousand people that are still hanging on and, paying attention to me to show them that like, look, you guys saw this. You saw this for yourselves. You saw me at the worst spot ever, and this is my life. Like, there's nothing that can't be done, you
Right,
know?
right.
Definitely.
Your like that turning point when your soul or spirit left your body and you're having this experience of whatever it was,
Mhm.
right? The other
Right.
side, or
Mhm.
on the way to the other side, or something like that.
Yeah, or off in the
And
corner, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
you pointed out that the key turning point was exactly what the theme of this podcast is: expressing and revealing your truth, the truth about who you really are. And when you realize that, you put it sort of with the words that you realize that alcoholism wasn't you, that wasn't your identity, that
Yeah.
was just something you
Mhm.
experienced. Right? And in some of my
Yeah.
recent books, I've made that point that all of these things that we think are us, our body, our skin color, our sex, male or female, or uncertain or mixed up, or
Mhm.
whatever things that we identify, that's not really what we should be identifying with, because that's not who we are.
Right.
Who we are is soul. Who we are is experience.
Mhm.
All this other, sorry, who we are is spirit, is soul,
Mhm.
and all the other stuff that we commonly think of as us.
Mhm.
Those are just experiences we are having, right? I'm an old white male, right?
Mhm.
But that's an
Right.
experience. That's an experience that I'm having right
Mhm.
now. It's not really who I am. It's not the truth
Yeah.
of who I am. Right, and so,
Right.
yeah, I love how your story fits so perfectly with the theme of our podcast, and if we get back to understanding who we really are,
Right.
then it changes everything in our life, and it changed everything in your life, and you realize that, "No, like, I'm not an alcoholic. That's just something that was a distraction to me. It was an experience.
Mhm.
It was a distraction on my journey, and I can just set that aside. It's not who I am." And
Yeah.
it's not what I came here to do. And now I'm gonna focus on what I came here to do. So your story, as tragic as it is, it ends in hope, right? And it's beautiful.
It does. It does. It ends in hope. I've I've had an amazing couple years. I'm over 2 years sober now and on this path. And about the beginning of 2025, I began to have health problems with the liver. And it kind of slowed me down from that 2024 course of just hitting the road, being everywhere all the time. And I didn't realize it then, but it resulted in more me being on the road all the time in some dire circumstances because I was traveling. I needed to find medical care. And due to some circumstances, I needed to find a new place to live as well. And I tried many, many cities all over this country, driving around, kind of getting progressively sicker. But I knew that, it was going to be time to get a transplant soon. And they had told me previously that that was the case. It took most of uh, 2025 just kind of poking around, trying to get to a new city, drum up some work real quick, try to get an address so I could get medical care. That was my routine. And I just, as I got sicker, especially, I could not make that happen. I was a Florida resident, and because I was on hospice, I still had Medicaid. So I came back to Florida and started looking at options, and people had told me for a long time that Gainesville was one of the best places in the country to go for a liver transplant, and that it's one of the fastest, being both a teaching hospital and due to Florida and the mortality rate here, they just have a lot of access to organs. Um, so yes, as of September, I arrived in Gainesville and found that medical care and am well on that path to transplant right now. Um, I've also found amazing community, the kind of support and the kind of friendships that I've just never had in my life have just avoided me. And I take some responsibility for that because I was never truly me. I was not embracing who I really was. I wasn't living authentically. The result of living authentically is attracting the people who love your authenticity. And guess what you get to do when you're fully authentic? You get to relax, because nothing you say or do is going to be outside of your character, because that's just who you are. So it's been absolutely wonderful. And, I couldn't have found a better spot or better fit for me. So it's been an exciting time, both because I am going down this transplant path and we've made a lot of headway and we're well on our way. And because I have a new life that my old life just doesn't even rival. It doesn't matter the best of times, the playing in bands, the traveling, whatever it may be. My old life doesn't have a day on this life. So it's wonderful.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And for any of our listeners or viewers who might like to help you out on this time. So this is another big step. A liver transplant is no small thing. And you have is it a Give, Send, Go?
I have a GoFundMe that
GoFundMe.
a guy I knew from high school started for me. He lives here in Gainesville, and he started it for me, and that's still running. And we're gonna have another few things here, but that's the main thing that we just need enough resources to basically keep things going until the transplant starts, and I have a place to be after that happens. I also do have an abdominal hernia that we're not sure if it's going to be operated on first. If it is, that would open me up to a lot of different working opportunities, but that doesn't look promising right now. So we are looking for resources to just help out as much as possible. A lot of it is gas, food. Yeah, the rest of it is being, really taken care of a lot by people in this community, and it's great. It's a team effort,
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll put the link in the show notes. Anybody who wants to help out Brock and through this, hopefully will be maybe the last big hurdle on this long journey back from death. Not just the brink of death, but from real death. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm glad I didn't look back on it during the process, because there were some hard times, and now looking back on it, I'm so grateful that things, one, that I'm finally free. I'm even grateful for the incredibly difficult things that have happened and the disappointments along the way, because it continued to sharpen me and make me have to show up more for myself, better for myself, and find a strength inside me that I did not know I was capable of. So looking back now and having come from that hospice bed, 350 pounds and the whole, I can't fathom that is all reality, but it certainly is.
Awesome.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Brock,
indeed.
It's been an absolute delight having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming and having the courage to share your story of both tragedy and hope. It's been great. Thank you so much. God bless you on
for
your
having me.
journey.
Yes,
and since we're both attending the same church, I'll see you Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, you will. I'll be playing music there.
You're going to be playing some music at church. Good.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
awesome.
Yes, indeed. All right.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Brock.
God bless you. Thank you, Donald.